Are you ready for phenomenal thought leadership from the most well-respected leaders in industry? Join us for stellar conversations and sound advice from trailblazers who have a passion for excellence. Learn best practices that will catapult the culture of your company into a new level of greatness. Welcome to Great Companies, Great Leaders. Your host is Christine Gannon.
Welcome to another edition of Great Companies, Great Leaders. I'm Christine Gannon, your host. I'm the CEO of Brightworks Consulting, and I could not be more honored and excited to have Stephanie Waldrop today with us. She is the principal of EBI. Stephanie, welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
A little bit about Stephanie. She, besides being the principal of her company today, she's held a lot of executive level positions with companies like Humana, PacifiCare, United Healthcare, and Aetna. She offers expertise in a multitude of areas, but it includes program design, market review, renewal negotiation, financial budget projection, claims utilization analysis, and funding arrangements. And so we know right now in this time of benefit renewal, all of those areas are in high demand. So prior to her role as principal with EBI Arizona, she was a senior vice president for Hub International Insurance Services, where she consulted with employers of all sizes on long-term employee benefit solutions. So Stephanie, welcome. I can't wait to dive in for our audience. I want to start with just how did you get here? So you've had an amazing career. When I look at your history and the companies you've been a part of, can you share maybe a little bit about where you started and how you ended up where you're at today?
Sure. Yeah. So I've been in healthcare as long as I can remember in some facet. Really, at the age of 16, I started working for a large medical practice. It was a mental health practice, and that was started being, nights and weekend help for the practice, which evolved into layers of insurance verification and then ultimately insurance billing and collections. By the time I was 18, I was graduating high school. I actually graduated early at 17 and started college. And really that took me on a journey to want the next step and to continue to grow and develop. I had moved through, several positions in a year and a half there, and went to work for WebMD and did electronic billing interchange, really helping support between practice management software systems and the insurance payers to improve the payment process while I was getting my degree in business. And when I finished there, I really thought I wanted to be a pharmaceutical rep, having been around that so much in the healthcare industry on the provider side. And I needed that outside sales experience in order to work for the company that I wanted to work for. And I landed in the insurance industry because of all of my experience there. And that really began a 10-year journey working, started as small groups with Humana, as you mentioned, then was quickly moved into the middle market and large group space working with PacifiCare, and then ultimately finished my carrier career, if you will, with Aetna, handling pretty much all the opportunities over 100 employees in the state of Arizona, working to position Aetna as the best option for the employer for their benefits program. So I just learned so much through those roles about how the pricing is done, all the different levers that can be pulled, really high interface with the underwriting team as you get into larger employers and have a lot more data. In today's environment, we get a lot of data even on smaller employers through the types of fundings that are available. So that journey really led me to a place of wanting to take all of that knowledge. I felt like I was playing for the wrong team at some point, just really wanting to take all of that knowledge and expertise and apply it to help employers control their cost and find the better deals. Part of that came from knowing that the insurance carrier is always positioned to get the best pricing that they can get to minimize risk and maximize profits. That's just the nature of business, right? And most of them are for-profit companies or looking to have very good reserves as a non-for-profit company. So that was a constant, just kind of, when it comes to healthcare, there was a little bit of a rub there. And then as I worked with I had the opportunity on the carrier side, especially in my final stint with Aetna on working for insurance carriers, had the opportunity to really work with all of the brokers and consultants that were handling employers in the state of Arizona over the course of time. And I really just got a good sense of what that landscape looked like. And, there were plenty of times where I could get to a better position and I couldn't get the broker to want to present that to their client because of the work involved in making a move, or because maybe it was a more strategic sell and they weren't as comfortable with all of the, the understanding of how it all worked, or things of that nature. And so I just had this constant drive that I wanted to be in a position to help employers deliver a better product for their employees with the budget available to them. And I knew, that I had the expertise to do it. And I knew the competitive landscape. So I felt very confident in that. So in any event, that led me to Hub International. And I was there for 3 years. I actually went to work for what was a privately owned smaller firm at the time. And then very shortly thereafter, they sold to a national firm, and, felt a very similar dynamic where clients were put in a box and it was a revenue number. And yeah, so, I learned a lot there. I learned a lot in the transition. There was a lot more to know to serve clients with regards to compliance and things of that nature. But ultimately, it was very clear to me that I needed to be in an environment where I could have pure autonomy to operate with, in the best interest of the client, to pull any lever that needed to be pulled to accomplish their goals and objectives without having someone tell me how it needed to happen for revenue.
Right.
So that led to Employee Benefits International. 8 years ago, we launched EBI in this marketplace, and we serve small employers to about 4,000 employees today across every industry. We really are industry agnostic, and in multiple different states. So we've grown almost exclusively through client referrals at this point, and it's been awesome and more rewarding than I could have ever imagined.
That's incredible. And you've gone through so many changes in the benefits industry. So many things have happened over the past 10 years. So yes. Congrats to you for growing your business in the midst of a whole lot of change. And something I heard you talk about, although you didn't specifically say it, was integrity. Integrity really driving you moving to these different positions because you felt like you really weren't able to service your client in the way that you wanted to.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was a consistent theme, and I won't shame any particular.
No.
But, it was a consistent theme. I was incentivized. My compensation was higher if I would write it at higher profit margins in some cases and things of that nature. And there just felt like a misalignment with the product that we were selling, which was insurance to help people have better health care and financial security. And so understanding that full dynamic and how it works, I felt like was just so critical to being able to make sure that there is fair pricing and integrity in the conversations, and that clients aren't overpaying and they aren't being, gouged, so to speak. And we still see it. We still see it every day, unfortunately.
Unfortunately. It is the nature of that business, I think. But thank goodness for companies like yours that are really looking out for why people have insurance. So it's awesome. So as you progress through these different roles and you really had a holistic view of this industry and how you could best serve your customer, definitely your leadership shines. And that's what stands out to me in terms of your integrity and your leadership. What advice can you give to leaders? What is the best thing they can do for their teams right now?
Yeah, I think, consistently for me, what stands out in terms of the most important thing for any leader is to be taking care of themselves so that they can take care of their teams and their clients. And, I have the privilege of being surrounded by a lot of business leaders in the role and how I interface with employers, as well as just through the community. And there's a great book actually by Kevin Lawrence, and it's named Put Your Oxygen Mask First. And he's an entrepreneurial coach who goes through the consistent theme being motivated by either, your personal, for doing something for your family or a mission or whatever it is, but that drive will sometimes cause you to lose sight of, your physical health and staying connected to your loved ones and all of the things that you started this endeavor for, or whatever that looks like. So I think that taking care of yourself so that you can continue to put your best foot forward and take care of those around you. When you become an employer, you then take care of all of your employees, and they need to be in a good, healthy place to be able to take care of your clients. And I just feel like that is one of those things that rolls downhill. And so avoiding burnout, I personally, stay connected to faith, make sure that I have plan time with family and loved ones. That is what fuels me and drives me. And when I feel disconnected from spending time with them, I lose steam for the excitement that I have and my passion for what I do professionally. And then, I love to be outdoors. I love being, whether that's hiking or going, we go up north a lot and go out on razor rides, we call them, but just ways to continue to connect with things that are bigger than what you're doing. I think is really important.
Absolutely. And you bring up a really important point, actually, because when you think about leaders who don't do that for themselves, they really set the example for their employees who don't feel like they can do it. So by you taking that time and encouraging people to take care of themselves so that you can be a servant leader, basically better and different and stronger, you're really giving your employees permission to do that too.
Yeah.
So you talked a little bit about team, and I heard you mention the team. Let's talk about the team for a minute. In terms of the environment we're in right now, it's really hard to find qualified employees that are applying for jobs. And so it had been more of an employer market. Now it's really an employee market right now in terms of finding the right employee. I know it's a difficult time. So when you're faced with the luxury of having 2 or more candidates that have applied for a position, how do you differentiate and decide? What's your deciding factor?
Yeah, that's a great question. We've come a long way, I would say, just as an organization, as we continue to grow and learn as leaders and that arena. It used to be we focused on skill set and how, maybe how smart somebody was, their experience or job history to do the position. But what we really learned is that, we are different in the industry. We don't want to be the traditional insurance brokerage. We don't want employees that do the traditional steps. We want to do more. And so what we've really learned is to focus on passion, alignment in our core mission to deliver better benefits to employees through controlling the cost, and making it easier to enhance the programs for the employers through some of the technology or simplified administration platforms we provide. Those are critical pieces to the puzzle, is how driven an employee is in your mission. And skill set alone just doesn't cut it when you're trying to do more and be more than the competitors. So I would say passion is probably the number one thing. Certainly focusing on our core values. So we listen for alignment in core values and our mission when we're interviewing people, and we ask questions that is going to really help us understand what does drive them and what do they love about the industry or about the job that they're applying for. And that really helps us to know whether they're going to show up driven to serve the client the way that we want to serve them, or whether they're exchanging their time for a paycheck, which we are all doing in any type of an employment situation. But it's a very different dynamic, when you're in alignment on the purpose and the mission that you're serving. And when you can get to that point with a team, you truly are unstoppable. And so it's really clear when you don't have that alignment with an employee, when it is just a paycheck. Yeah.
You can train skill, but not will.
Right.
You can totally train skill. I would hire an employee all day long that I needed to upskill. But if the drive, like you talked about, and the will isn't there, it's not going to be good for either party. It just doesn't work.
Yep.
So leaders are in a challenging time right now. We have COVID forever. It feels like we have work from home environments. We have hybrid. We have all different types of things happening in our work environment. We have women who have left the workplace en masse this last year. Over 4 million women have left the workplace. So lots of different situations that I think the workplace is experiencing. So leaders are challenged. What advice would you give to leaders? What do you think the best thing they can do right now for themselves is? We know self-care is super important, But what do you think leaders, what is like one of the biggest challenges you see facing them, and how can they handle it?
I think the biggest challenge for leaders today is to stay focused, on that mission, to stay focused on who you are as an organization and continually growing in that. And I think the reason for that is what you've just talked about. It's the turnover rate, obviously. I mean, this has been dubbed as the era of the Great Resignation, right? The U.S. Labor Bureau statistics just released that the turnover rate for 2020, we haven't even seen 2021 yet. And we all know it's going to be higher, but for 2020 is 57%, which is incredibly high. And that's just across all industries. If you look at just purely like retail or grocery stores, it's 120 plus in some cases, right? So the cost of turnover to an organization is incredible just from a financial perspective. But when you think about, the leadership team staying focused and being able to put the energy into leadership and growth and development and team skill and all of those things, when you're seeing that kind of turn. And we've certainly experienced women leaving the workforce. I mean, we've had two key people that, one wanting to leave to take care of her elder parents in a time of clear distress, from a health perspective, and and determined that her family needed her more at home than they needed the paycheck with the dynamics of schools and everything else, right? So certainly we understand that. And as a woman, I can certainly, identify with the challenges that it takes to be a professional and to also, serve the role you serve to all the various people in your lives. But I do think it's that turnover and being able to develop skill in people to a point where you really can delegate and hand off core functions to stay focused as a leader. So I would say the biggest challenge is focus, and the if you take that down a notch, what's challenging focus really is the turnover and the ability to delegate and have
Absolutely.
that. Yeah.
There's so much that can distract us from our mission, right? As leaders, there's so much happening. I feel like there's new mandates and rules and guidelines and situations that are just happening at just this ridiculous speed that it would be super easy to get distracted. And so I think you're saying the challenge of focus is spot on. I think it's such a challenge for leaders. So as we wrap up our time, you've given the audience some amazing nuggets and great advice, as well as stories just to consider and reflect on. Who is your mentor? Every one of us has mentors that have achieved any level of success. So can you talk a little bit about maybe a mentor that had an impact on you and how it helped your career?
Sure. I will say I'm a huge fan of just, continuing to grow and develop and mentorship in general. I am part of an organization here. They're a global organization, but here locally called EO, which is Entrepreneurs Organization. And, we are a couple hundred roughly CEOs and owners that work collaboratively to help solve business challenges, support each other, to not be on an island. But through that, there is a mentorship program. And I had the privilege of going through a full year mentorship program last year with a real estate developer locally. His name's Jim Small. And through that EO platform. And there were so many amazing aha moments in that journey. But as he really honed in on my passion and this, got to experience over the course of that, actually becoming a client and seeing firsthand what we did for his organization. He said something that's really stuck so hard, and I hear it every day. And it drives me. And so it's a good thing. But his feedback was, your company, what you're doing, it's like you're a Ferrari, but there's no gas. So people keep driving where you go. And to have the impact that I really want to have for employers and the community as a whole, in terms of the level of benefit that they experience and the type of care that they get when they do have a need for their benefits. We really need to multiply the number of people that are out talking about what we do and be scaling it a different way. We are at this point one of the largest, if not the largest, privately held boutique insurance firm for employee benefits in the state of Arizona, because there's just been so many private equity transactions that are really just eroding, that deeper level service model. And so I'm committed to staying independent and staying private and keeping it all about the client. That's very much what drives me. And so I think about that regularly. And what am I doing to put gas in the Ferrari today? It's basically, the way that makes me stay focused on the leadership and the mission when there's all the other stuff going on around me all the time.
Such good advice. Great advice. Stephanie, thank you so much for everything you shared today. How can people find you?
Oh, goodness. So we have an office here in Phoenix. We're on 16th Street in Northern today. We have grown out of this space. So probably in the next year, we'll be looking for something nearby that's about double in space. But our website is ebint.com for employeebenefitsinternational.com. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm out in the community.
Awesome.
Yeah,
very good
to find us.
We will make sure that your information is in the content and comments so that people can find you. And thanks again for being here.
Perfect. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Brightworks Consulting hosts this podcast and YouTube channel to spotlight the leadership around the world that is changing lives. Brightworks offers a myriad of consulting services in the public and private sector, to include diversity, equity, and inclusion solutions for any size company. You can find us at www.brightworksconsulting.com. We're honored to have Best Companies AZ as a presenting sponsor for this podcast. Best Companies AZ is your #1 source for regional employer branding. You can find them at www.bestcompaniesaz.com.